just a fun side story. I was like, how do I name this? And I've always loved acronyms and all these things. And I was working on another idea called Rad Rated, which was, remember Zagat Rated and all this stuff? I had this idea for, like, if you go to a city, you could see how do you find cool places that are designed well, cool coffee shop that's got cool design. And I had this idea for Rad Rated, which was RAAD, respects architecture, art, and design. And spent some time on it, but I never really fulfilled that, obviously. But as I was working through a name, I was looking at the sources just for months and months. It's just like writing things down. And I came across the word admix, which is like, admixture for concrete, aggregate, and these things. And I thought, wow, that's cool. That's like, it's a mixture of all these different things and something that holds stuff together. And I said, admix, radmix. And I was like going back and forth. And then I just thought, no, admix with 2 A's, architecture, art, and design mixed together.
That's how AADMIXX, the name was.
Yep.
So this is Tobin Green, everybody. AADMIXX on Instagram, right?
Yep.
AADMIXX.
Yep.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at that and go, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's some people are like AADMIXX, but yeah, it's just AADMIXX.
I like it. It makes sense. It's like the concrete construction thing.
Everything's got a story, man. I don't care what it is I do. Everything has a story. Nothing is arbitrary. If you walk through my house, when we did the parade of homes after we built our home, I literally gave tours every single day for 30 days to strangers. And like, I could do it. It happens now. If people want to see the house, I can walk around there for hours. I'm like, do you want like the quick tour where you just want to see the rooms real quick? Or do you want like the nerd tour where I can tell you every little detail of everything in there? And I can literally walk around and point out every piece of art, every material, everything in my house and life has a story.
Yeah, so you are a general contractor, correct?
I'm a contractor.
Architect.
Yep.
Like what else you've
got?
I mean,
I
kind of everything in house, right?
Yeah, we keep it all in house. I wanted to be, the legend was I wanted to be an architect since I was a kid, since my first Lego set. I was like 4 years old. Legend has I put it together super fast. And my mom was like, "You're gonna be an architect like your uncle."
So Legos, you too. Soul Design,
yeah,
Carlos.
Yeah.
He had the same story. Legos.
I imagine a lot of people in this field have the same. And I actually, I'm a big nerd. I still work with Legos. I call it my Lego therapy. I got really into it during COVID, man, and it was like I would spend hours just put on my favorite podcast. And
did you build some of those like 5,000 piece Star Wars Death Star?
I did the Millennium Falcon. Matter of fact, I still have it. It's like embarrassing.
How long did that take you?
I actually timed it, and that's what a nerd I am. I timed it and did like a time lapse. It was about 100 hours of
holy shit.
Yeah, it was just like
but during COVID, what a perfect way.
Yeah, man, glass of wine, put on the podcast, and go to town. I'll still have little you can buy the little Lego bags and. If I'm like kind of in a rut or whatever, I'll just tie myself, see how fast I can put something together. Or sometimes, like I said, truly Lego therapy because I can put this on. It's kind of it's mindless, right? It's not like you're just following directions.
Exactly.
But there's like always this aha moment, like where you're doing something, especially with like Star Wars or whatever, something that's familiar, where you get to put this thing together and you're like, oh damn, like that's how they did that. That's really cool.
It is.
Yeah. So
I did a 911. They had a it was like a 20th scale 911 Porsche.
Oh yeah.
And dude, that thing was badass. And they're in the beginning of the booklet, it talks about how the guy created the Porsche.
Oh yeah. There's always a story about the designer.
It's so detailed. It's actually very impressive what Lego puts into these designs.
It's crazy, man. Matter of fact, I bought that set for a buddy of mine who's really into Porsches. I bought that for him for his birthday.
I still got it sitting in my living room. My wife is like, "When are you going to put that in your office?" I'm like, "Babe, it's awesome. It's a piece of art. Come on, your husband created it."
I had to cull my collection. I recently kind of redid my studio, and I was like, I think it's getting a lot of hand. I had so many Legos all over the place. I had to get them out and kind of tighten it up a little bit. But the other ones that are really cool are the floral ones. They have they have like plants and stuff now.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it's really cool.
Dude, they've expanded. It's crazy.
Got a bottle of water. I feel like I'm like in.
I think we got some water.
I'm drinking coffee. I just feel like.
Yeah, you wanna wet the whistle. So back to kind of your origin story and how you got into architecture.
Yeah, like I said, since a kid, that was the goal, and I chased it all the way down through. I got my undergrad in housing and technical interior design at Florida State.
Go Noles.
Yep, absolutely, and got a good season going on right now.
Hell yeah.
And came back to get my master's at USF. Thank you.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, got my master's at USF.
Are you originally from Tampa?
Originally from outside of Detroit. I moved here when I was a kid in 1984, and went to school at Bloomingdale. Grew up in Valrico. Went up to Tallahassee. I was up there, and then came back here for grad school. I've been here ever since.
That's awesome, man. Wow. So grad school, what year would that have been? Just so I can understand like the progression you've seen in the city.
I'll date myself. Tomorrow's my birthday. I'm 47, and I graduated from grad school in 2004.
You look fucking phenomenal for 47 years old.
Thanks, man.
For real.
Try to keep it tight.
So man, you have seen an incredible shift in Tampa's growth. You have a really interesting perspective on the trajectory of where we're going as a city.
I remember being a kid, for 7th grade, we were bussed out here. I went to Booker T. Washington, and I remember being a kid, they were building what is now, I think, the Wells Fargo building. It's like the pink-colored sort of stepped building. And I remember watching that go up every day coming in on the bus on the Selman, and just thinking, like, one day I'm going to do that. Like, how am I going? I ended up working one of the firms that I worked for out of school was we focused on high-rise buildings. It was actually really one of my favorite jobs. We actually worked on one of the biggest projects that we worked on that never happened was the Trump Tower. We actually went all the way through. We finished the whole set of drawings. At the last, it was like one of those like textbook situations. Last 2 days, 48 hours straight in the studio, and got them all done. And then
that
of course,
collapsed because of the recession.
Absolutely.
Right?
So that firm, it's all they worked on, and I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I mean, it was a established firm, and there was 30 people when I started, and by the time I left, there was, I think it was down to around 10.
Pull that up, Tyler, real quick. Trump Tower, Tampa. That site has had several issues. Each iteration of project. Is that a site-specific problem, or what's going on?
I think it was always timing, man. At first, when the Trump building was going on, there was I think soil issues. I think there was some burial ground stuff, like some artifacts maybe that were found. Don't hold me to that, but I feel like there was something weird like that. I came in
2007.
Yeah, I came in late to the game on that project when I was working for that firm, but it was a prominent project that we worked on.
It's kind of a tricky site too, right? You're in a pinched position.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised. I mean, that's the model right there.
There it is. Yeah.
It's a tight site, but man, really, the more you look around the world, like the biggest buildings are built on some of the smallest sites. I mean, right now,
so true.
The townhouse we're doing right now is on an incredibly tight site, and it's
You want to talk about that project?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Pull that up on their Instagram page. They've got renderings. So you actually are building townhomes in your backyard, essentially.
Basically, yeah.
When you bought that site, that piece of property, did you have in mind building multiple units?
So we bought the first lot. My wife and I, this give you a little bit of nerdy background. My wife and I are huge New Orleans fans. We go there all the time, and we're driving around looking for it's time for us to buy some land and then build the first house. And there was a street called Orleans, and we're just like, oh, how great would that be? And we find this lot, and we make an offer, and they said, oh no, somebody else. We were coming out of the recession, so we got lucky. We got really lucky. Got a great price on the property, but first offer, they're like, oh no, somebody's made a bigger offer today. I knew that there was going to be setback issues with it, and so I was like a psycho. I drive by like once a week. 2 weeks later, signs back up. Call up right away, make an offer. Like, no, somebody just it happened 3 times. Like, somebody made a bigger offer than you this morning, whatever. Like, all right, cool, whatever. And so the third time I call, I said, listen, by that time I was like on a first name basis with her. I said, I know why your sales are falling through. People are doing their due diligence and they're realizing that there's setback issues and they're going to have to get a variance and all this stuff. I go, I'm okay to do that. I'll walk this through myself. I'm like, I'm not a developer trying to come here and just build something and leave. Like, I'm trying to plant my flag here and be here. I love this neighborhood. I've got a romance with this neighborhood. I grew up coming here with my mom. And I said, if you take my offer, I'll walk it through myself and get it done. And she's like, all right, cool, let's do it. And they're actually my neighbors. They live next door now.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so we got the property, and it was a small property. It was a 65 by 65, and there was a lot on the backside with a house that was like literally you could almost push it. It would fall over. It was falling apart. I got a hold of that owner. She didn't live there at the time, and got her. She was into it, and she sold it to us. And we thought, okay, cool. We've got this great property now. We had already done the variance on our property. And so then we get this property, essentially was the backyard.
So these were two separately platted properties.
Yeah, well, as we would find out later that back in the early 1900s, somebody had split that lot up and it never was really recorded. So they had two different addresses, but and there was nothing they could do at this point. I mean, it had its own address and everything. And so we looked at it and we're like, well, we don't actually need all this yard. We don't need a huge yard like that. We're not really like that. We need enough. We want to eventually put like a little pool back here or whatever. And we looked at it and we said, that could be our first design build project to sell. And so we did a PD, rezoned it, and cut off what we need, took what we needed, and that was that.
Yeah, you got to watch the table. You don't want to
sorry.
bang people's ears.
Gotcha.
Can we pull up the neighborhood? Do you mind if we kind of show where this area is? Because I think it's important for the conversation because there's Hyde Park, right? But then there's another neighborhood north of Swan, Dobyville. Dobyville is how you say it?
Yeah. So we're in Hyde Park. We're in historic Hyde Park.
Google Maps, Tyler. You could probably just zoom in if you're familiar. Do you know the area we're talking about, Tyler?
I know where Hyde Park is.
So Hyde Park. It's right north of Hyde Park Village, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. If you use on Swan as like an anchor point.
Right. So do satellite, Tyler. Because I actually love this little pocket of Tampa. It's very unique.
Yep.
It's kind of bordered by Swan, the crosstown. You've got Hyde Park Village to the south.
It's very eclectic.
And it's very eclectic, right? Yep. I feel like your style would fit in this neighborhood more than south of Swan or like Hyde Park proper, right?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. When we bought it, there was no, the local historic district was not part of this part of the neighborhood. It was still just national. And I remember when I was down at the city, checking in on all the information, the guy's like, yeah, you could build a spaceship here if you wanted to. Nobody could say anything. Okay, perfect.
That's encouraging news.
Yeah, right. So we went for it, and yeah, it's called Dobyville, and it's sort of like there's all sorts of different. It's crazily diverse. I mean, you have single family, multifamily, you have commercial businesses back there, and it really is. It's just a beautiful little pocket in Hyde Park, and you get south of Swan, and everything is it's pristine, and it has been that way for a long time. And in Dobyville, particularly on our street, was a place that I hate to say it, but like the city sort of had turned its back on it for decades, and we didn't even know what Dobyville was at the time. We bought in, we just liked that there was a street called Orleans, and we're like, oh, how cool is that? And we got there, and we learned very quickly from some of the neighbors that we got to sit and talk with that had been there forever. This matriarch, Miss Brown, was really awesome, R.I.P. And we learned about Dobyville from her and heard some really cool stories. And
how long has she lived in the neighborhood for?
She was born in her house in 1940, I think.
So you're talking
early 1930s. Yeah.
Pre-crosstown.
Yeah, she says we'd sit and have discussions, and I felt really lucky to be able to kind of get some real history from her. And she said, I've been here for all of it. I've been here when it was thriving, and I've watched the decline, and I'm seeing what's happening around us now. And she goes, I'd just like to say, like, I respect you for being here and taking a chance in this place. Not many people have in recent decades, and it's cool that you're doing that, and I respect you for that. And she actually said, like, if when I'm gone, if my family ever decides to sell our house, I'd hope that they would sell to you, because I think what you're doing here is cool, and I think you're giving a new life to this area. And I thought I took that to heart, man. It was really, really powerful.
That's an incredible thing to hear from a resident who's been in a neighborhood her entire life.
Yeah, and
probably someone whose opinion, that opinion holds more weight than almost any other.
Yeah, I could go on about that for a long time, but I will say, if you look at the style that we have, like I said, urban progressive, it's got this. I define my style as urban progressive, and the way that I explain it is, it's modern, but it's not minimal or Miami. It's industrial, but it's very comfortable and welcoming, and it's eclectic, but it's very intentional and precise.
Can you pull up the back to the Instagram page, the Strata Barn? It's called. So this
kind of came up with that name.
Let's talk about the name.
Yeah, so I'm a nerd.
Because everything has a purpose.
Projects have names. I like to give them something. And I was studying a lot of this modern gable design that I'm really into these days. And I started with that. And it's such a tight site that I needed to make sure that it didn't really have room to sort of like have low ceilings or anything. So as I made the ceilings more spacious on the top floor, it sort of started to flatten the roof out a little bit. And as I was looking at it, I was like, wow, it's kind of got this cool sort of barn look to it. And I started researching like, what can I call this thing? And I was like, it's very different. It's a different layer of design for Hyde Park. And I was just thinking about how do I like, what do I do with that? And the word strata means layer. And so I'm like, oh, it's this sort of barn look, and I call it strata barn because it's a whole new layer of design for the neighborhood.
You put a lot of thought into the name and into the design. How detailed do you get? I mean, down to the specific material you use?
For every single little, I'll have to give you a tour of our house sometime, and when this is done, this project as well. So we design everything all the way down to like the front door, the leather on the front door handle, to the cabinet poles. Like we'll do everything. I work with what I believe are the 2 or 3 best, most talented fabricators and of like furniture and hardware and stuff in Tampa, and we do really cool collaborative work. And these guys are awesome. And so if it can be designed, I will design it.
The front door of your personal home, you had a broker's open there to kind of show off your detail.
Yep.
That was really interesting.
Yeah, it's you're seeing more of these pivot doors nowadays. But yeah, it's a pivot door, and we skinned it with Core-10 steel, which has it's meant to get this sort of like little crust on it, and it's really good. It weathers really well. Actually, matter of fact, I mentioned On Swan before. If you go to On Swan, like the whole outside of that building has that material on there.
Yeah, there's the
you can see
door.
it. Yeah,
really
right
cool, man.
And then we sort of add that material to other areas. See the balcony up top on the sides of the balcony, it has that same material. But then in the same light, like, you know, this industrial, when you think of industrial, like I said, it's industrial but comfortable. So what do we do to sort of soften up the facade? There's a Kumaru wood on that's my studio gate right there on the right hand side, and then on the balcony, that balcony was fabricated by the same person that did my door, and we did the Kumaru wood on the gate and on the balcony to sort of really soften everything, soften the facade up a little bit.
Can you go back to the barn, the strata barn?
It's funny, somebody asked me, is this a barn dominium? Like, I don't even know what that is at the point. I was like, maybe I'm aging out, but I looked it up. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that is a thing. I'm like, but no, it's not.
It's so much more than that, in my opinion. I think it's really cool.
That suggests condominium too. It's not. This is definitely a townhouse project.
So you mentioned it's not Miami Modern.
Right.
What does Miami Modern look like to you? And then how does this design differ from that? Like, how have you accomplished moving away from that design?
When I say Miami Modern, you think of like it's all white. It's very clean lines, almost museum-like. I am not like shitting on Miami Modern at all. It's some beautiful designs out there, right? But for me, that's just I like to take it a little step further. I like to have more character on the inside, and so like if you look at our kitchens, again, we design everything down to the cabinetry, and like I kind of like to look at our kitchen designs as like I take influence from like, you know, old school New York or Parisian cafes. Yeah. We actually, our kitchen was featured randomly. I got an email from Dwell Magazine online as like, you know, top 5 sleek black kitchens of the week a couple of years ago. It's pretty cool.
So to me, Miami is like porcelain tile or marble, white, right?
Yeah.
Everything's white, clean lines, boxy, flat roof.
Lots of glass and you know, invisible railings and stuff like this.
So you're moving out of that direction, not only the shape, right? A more pitched roof, but also the materials you're using, right? So adding those stone elements, adding wood to warm it up.
Absolutely. And we also we do hand troweled concrete countertops, even like shower pans.
Ooh, what does that look like? Concrete countertops. That's interesting.
Yeah. It's not super uncommon, but usually when you see them, people will like dye them and color them, and they make them really smooth and beautiful and pristine. And that is the opposite of what I'm trying to do. So with the sort of industrial lean that I have, when I was working with this guy that did my countertops, the first ones, I said I want them to look like concrete. I don't want to hide the fact that they're concrete. If they're concrete, let's express that.
Yeah.
And so it's just a hand trowel concrete. When you come look at them, I mean, it looks like the concrete floors. But it's polished, solid, really, really pristine.
Is this style of construction more expensive than just your typical block?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, even like if I did a package, like, you know, for me to do.
Oh, it's beautiful. Look at these concrete countertops.
Yeah. If you pull up Instagram for my page, you'll be able to see. That's the Marble Island, but yeah, that was a sample. If you go back. That's a sample of the concrete.
Oh, beautiful.
Right,
Really cool.
but what we'll do also is like, okay, so it's concrete, it's industrial. How do we soften that up?
Right.
So I find marble that has really heavy gray veins in there. So the gray in the marble plays off of the concrete, and we'll use a marble for the island, and we'll do marble for the backsplash. So it all ties together and it goes from being just industrial to elegant, and having like a real soft touch to it.
You're really unique in that you're the architect, the builder, and the designer as well.
Yeah, I would do it all. Like I said, I don't know, it can be kind of cumbersome sometimes, but I love it, man. I live for this stuff, and I don't ever want to get to a point where I'm not trying to be the developer that's doing 20 homes, 100 homes a year at all. I want to keep it tight. I mean, if I'm doing 3 or 4 custom homes and I'm designing it, building it, listing it, I'm happy, and life is good and it's simple. I have some friends in town that started small, and they're big commercial builders now, and they're super successful, but they've all said the same thing, and it's like, hey man, when this takes off, keep it tight. Don't get too big, because it ends up becoming, you're feeding the beast, right? Like you become the business model for the business person there, and you stop being able to have fun with all the design. You end up hiring people to do the design for you and all that. And there's something to having like hiring people to help you with. Sorry, I keep hitting the table. There's something to hire people to help you with some of the drafting work or whatever. But the second I'm not designing anymore or thinking about every little last detail, I'm not going to be having fun anymore.
You're further away from that Legos that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, like the whole...
You want to be the artist. You want to be in there actually creating.
The whole cliche, do something you love, right? And I love this, and I love taking everything apart and just getting everything down to the last detail.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this is very ambitious, right? Obviously, in its design, it's ambitious, but also to find a buyer that appreciates this quality.
Yeah.
I know your wife is involved in the sales, right?
Yep.
So anyone that wants information on this can contact AADMIXX on Instagram or Bianca as your wife.
Bianca Green at AADMIXX.com.
Okay. So what are the challenges in finding a buyer? I mean, I would imagine it's going to be more difficult to find a buyer for a property like this versus, hey, we're just going to build a typical townhome.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I'd be lying if I didn't say I have sleepless nights thinking about those things. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you're creating for a niche market, and that's okay. I've never been one for the mainstream. I don't get into a whole lot of mainstream music. It's just not for me. And the way I see it is that maybe if 100 people come look at it, maybe it's different where everybody wants this house that's nice and comfortable, and because there's a lot of beautiful homes out there that are not my thing. Something about me as a designer, I don't shit on other designers just because they're not my style. I respect good design no matter what style it is. But if 100 people come through the house, some people may like it. I can't imagine living here, but the ones that get it instantly are going to be like, oh, I got to have this because it's the only one, and that's what I'm shooting for. And like I said, like even with my house, I'm designing this totally unique structure in Hyde Park, and I had sleepless nights thinking like, what are people going to think about this? Like I'm not trying to be the asshole that everybody hates, but I'm trying to live by what I want to do. I'm trying to be true to myself, and so we did it. And wouldn't you know, like we decided to enter the Parade of Homes that year. Not because we thought we had a chance of hell in it winning anything, because our style is just so much different. But we entered. We thought, okay, people can at least see who we are. And we get a call, and they're like, "Hey, you guys haven't gotten your gala tickets yet." And we're like, "Yeah, we're not really into the gala kind of thing." And like, "No, you should definitely come." We're like, "All right, fine. We've had fun with this. Let's go." And we're hanging out, and next thing you know, they're like giving out these awards, and they go, "Award for." Primary suite design, and like AADMIXX. We're like, oh damn, we won something! Like, how cool is that? Maybe they're throwing us a bone or whatever, and then keeps going on. There's nine total awards, and the next thing it's like price category 1.5 million, whatever, AADMIXX. And we're like, holy shit, we won another one. And then they're like, best. What was the next one? Best in class for curb appeal, and that one really hit me because now I'm like, curb appeal. That's like just.
That's everything.
Exactly what that's it. Like, it's like you're being vindicated, right? Like, holy shit, people really like this. And it really like hit me, I'm getting chills right now thinking about that. And then, keep going, best in class architectural detail. And I'm like, fuck, like this wow,
Holy
like,
shit.
holy
So
shit.
how many
like,
did you win?
There's 9 possible awards, and then we end up they're like, all right, the Grand Diamond Award for Best Project of the Year, AADMIXX, and we're like, holy shit, like
That's amazing,
we're kind
man.
of like sitting here. I'm like almost like crying at the table. I'm like,
So
what the
what is
fuck
that,
is going on?
4 of 9?
5 of the 9. And so yeah, and it's just me and Bianca, man. It's just me and my wife. So people are coming up to one of the developers, like who's like I thought was going to win everything because he does beautiful homes and like 20, 30 a year. I thought this guy was a shoe-in to take them all home. And we were sitting at the same table and we were all cool. And then by the time it was over, he like just left, didn't even say anything to me. I was like, oh,
5
oh,
of 9. You guys are trying to carry him
I'm
out the
like,
door.
yeah. This one woman walks up and she's like, oh my God, congratulations. Like, how many people are in your firm? And Bianca and I are looking at each other like, this is it. You know what I mean? Like it was a super cool moment, super humbling, and it really gave me a lot of drive to keep going.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that was for your personal home, right?
Yeah,
The one in
yeah,
the front.
Yep.
Okay. Incredible.
Yeah. And then, we pushed on. We actually started designing. I'd actually designed a single family home for where Strata Barn's going now. And I did it during the process of building our house. And when I got done with it, I looked at it. It was permitted and everything. And I looked at it and I just said, you know what? Like, this is cool. And I could put this a lot of places and be, okay with it. I go, but this is in my backyard, and this is the first one that we're gonna push to sell. I said, I think I can do better, and I actually scrapped it. It was, like I said, permitted.
Design-wise, but it sounds like you shifted from single family to
100 absolutely
townhouses.
Yeah. So that year, Bianca and I went and stayed at our first Airbnb. I think we were in Austin, and it was the second and third floor above this detached garage of this architect and his designer wife, and this house is so cool. We're just like, we were in love, and we sat there that night, and I remember they had like a record player, and we're hanging out, and we're like, this is it. This is what we could do. Maybe we could do some Airbnbs or whatever. That was where the conversation started, but it was like, we should do like 2 townhouses in the back, and let's roll with that. And that's how we got to do the townhouse.
Is that still a part of the conversation between you guys? Like, hey, maybe we'll keep these as Airbnbs?
We've thrown it around. For this project, we really want to move them just to move on to the next project. I'm hoping, maybe it's like somebody buys them, and if they ever decide to sell them, maybe we'll buy them back or something. Some of the strongest interest we've had so far has been from people like cash buyers that want to turn them into Airbnbs, and that'd be awesome. We're totally cool with that. But
are you allowed to do it in that neighborhood,
yeah,
Airbnbs?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they'd be really cool
Yeah,
Airbnbs,
yeah.
and what a location to do it in, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk. Can we talk like floor plans, like detail stuff like that?
Absolutely.
Do you have that we can pull up, check out?
I don't have
Website maybe.
the website is actually. No, this is the old one. This website is trash, man. It's embarrassing. So we're actually launching. I'll announce it now. We are launching. Our new website launches today. So by the end of the day, it will be up.
Awesome.
Yep. And actually, Strata Barn, we're actually listing it on MLS today.
Fantastic.
So yeah, we've had it sort of sitting as we've gotten it out of the ground. So we've flown our second floor of trusses. We're going on the second floor right now. We're anticipating a completion date of around late March, early April, and so we thought it was appropriate now to kind of finally put it back on the market.
Are these 2 identical units?
No, they look that way from the front, but there's a larger unit and a smaller unit. It's a really unique design, and honestly, it was the city didn't know what to do with it. And that was another reason why I was very against calling it barn dominium. They're designed, there's a larger unit that's just over 2,000 square feet and a smaller unit that's just over 1,600 square feet. And typical townhouse design is one next to another with the party wall that goes straight up. And I designed this so that they look the same on the front, and both of them have front entrances on Azeel Street, but you park on the alley. And so I was like, well, how are you going to have 2 units parking? Like, it didn't work. And so the bigger unit has a full oversized 2-car garage with storage. You can see right there. And then if you go past it to the backside here, you have a double stacked covered carport for the other unit. And the garage unit would walk into their unit through the garage, obviously, when they park. And then the carport has a private breezeway down the backside where they would enter from the back. And what happens is on the units the bigger unit is sort of in the front and the smaller units in the back, except for there's a hallway on the west side where on the 3rd floor, the bigger unit goes over the smaller unit. And that blew the city's mind. Like, that's the party wall doesn't go all the way to the roof. I go, but it's a detail. It's detail. How do you define party wall? And I said it just goes sideways and goes out the wall. It's all still detailed the same for fire code and all this stuff. And it took a while. I mean, I had to get my attorney to get involved in all this stuff, but the city actually did call. They said, no, you are right.
Wow.
Yeah, I said.
So the city had never really seen anything
No,
like this
and
before.
it threw a wrench in things, and it was a tough moment. We had to fight for it, but I said, listen, like I understand, like when the city's looking at things, like it's usually cut and dry, right? But I said, just because something hasn't been done doesn't mean it's impossible or can't be done. We just have to look at it and re-examine it and see if what I'm saying makes sense. And if it doesn't, fine, we'll call it. If we have to call it a condominium, we will. But it's not. It's a townhouse, and
So they were very receptive to this,
this
this design.
I mean, when you make an argument for something, if you can present the facts, it is what it is, right? I mean, we showed it in the code. We let the code speak for itself, and that was that.
Got approval, and now you're under construction.
Yeah.
Well, it's really cool, and I love the idea how you have 2 front entrances and then parking around the side.
Yeah.
Obviously visited Austin. You were saying,
Yeah.
Why build here in Tampa? Like, why Tampa? You graduated school here. You're kind of from like Valrico. You moved here a few years ago.
Yeah, I moved here in '84 as a kid from just outside Detroit. Grew up, like I said, in Valrico. Went to school up at undergrad, like I said, at Florida State, grad school back here at USF, and
why not take this to Austin, where there's more of a demand for this very interesting architecture, right? Why Tampa?
That's a great question. And so there was a point before this awesome Tampa boom that we're experiencing, where we're like, well, there's the design scene around here hadn't started booming yet, and we were like, maybe we go. My wife was she was born in New York, and we're thinking we love New York City. We go there all the time, and we're like, maybe we go to New York and start fresh there. Or maybe we go. I love Detroit still. I was like, maybe we take this to Detroit. Detroit was coming sort of coming out of their bankruptcy, and we just sat back and looked at it and said, you know what? Her family's here. My family's here. We've got we've got a great network here, friends, family, all of it, business. And we said, maybe we can, maybe we stay here and try to become part of the solution. You know, try and be part of whatever Tampa's going to. Yeah, we can be part of whatever Tampa's going to become, and we couldn't be happier with that decision, man.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, you guys are making a huge impact.
We're trying.
I mean, this project has gotten a lot of attention. Kind of back to the design though. So, is there any sort of a yard space? What is this here on the right?
No. So, the way I like to define these townhouses, even my house, I say it's like a single family townhome. You know, townhomes are typically more than one unit. And so I like to think of, in the design that I do is very, I say it's like city inspired. So I take a lot of my design influences, places that I've lived. I owned a unit in the Model T. You know what Model T is down in Channel Side? Yeah. I owned a unit down there years ago, and I had a corner unit with these floor to ceiling windows that I thought were really cool, and I incorporated that into my house. And so I like to say it's like city living in a neighborhood. And so this site, man, it's 40 by 65. It is.
It's tight. Yeah.
So there's no room for a yard in that situation. But I put these balconies, oversized balconies on there and stuff like that face downtown to give you that airy feel. But yeah, this particular build is it's like. It's like living in a high-rise downtown, but in a more neighborhood setting.
Right, you can walk out your front door.
Yeah, yes.
I mean, the walkability in this neighborhood's incredible.
Man,
you can go to Hyde Park Village, hit the market, go to a restaurant.
I feel so lucky to be where I'm at. I remember my building mentors like, oh, you're gonna build that house and sell it. I'm like, no, man, I don't think so. Like, we love it here. There's dumb things that you can't really put a price on, right? We're like a block and a half from the on and off ramp for the Selman. So Bianca and I go to St. Pete all the time. Like, we're like, one day we're heading over there. You know, we go here. We come to St. Pete a lot. We hop the bridge quite a bit. Like, I don't know many people that go over there, go there as much as we do, or even come from there to Tampa. I go, but it's because we live so damn close to the expressway. It literally takes us 20 minutes, 15 if you're going real fast to get downtown.
Right
yeah,
there.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like you said, man, Hyde Park Village. Like I've always heard the stories of somebody that got lucky buying their lot this time. All these lucky stories that you hear. That was us this time. Like we got in at right before everything started going crazy. I grew up, like I said earlier, I grew up in Valrico, but my mom, single mom, me and my two younger sisters, like she would bring us to Hyde Park Village back in the day for like a school clothes shop. You know, we each get one outfit and we thought it was like super fancy. You know, we were really cool. And I remember getting off on Willow one time, driving down Willow and the canopy trees, and I'm like, I'm gonna live here one day. And she's like, yeah, well, you better keep going to school. You know, that was her big thing. You got to go to college, and you better become that architect or whatever. This place is not cheap. And so we did it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're one block off of Willow on Orleans, but the village, like you said, when we bought, it was really still at that point. It was Irish 31.
Sharper Image was there, or maybe this
Well,
was.
no, when we bought, no. Sharper Image was the island where
I might be
where,
talking like 90s.
No,
Sharper
that was
Image.
back when I used to come here with Sharper
Right.
Image, Banana Republic, and all that stuff was here. But no, when we bought almost 10 years ago now, it was really all that was there was Timpano's, Irish 31, Wine Exchange, and the movie theater. You know, and then a couple other little random things that were in there.
Yeah,
but nothing
so
that
this
it
is
now.
pre like goody.
Oh, 100.
Way
Like,
before
so,
Meat Market.
So we get in, we're in the middle of building our house. We get our hands on the second property, and probably 2 months after we get the property, the second lot, it was announced that this developer, I think they're from Boston, bought Hyde Park Village and was going to be redeveloping it. We're like, holy shit,
Yeah.
like, it's happening. Like we were just here because we like the neighborhood
and they
we
did
like what was
such
there.
a good job
Oh
too.
my God, are you kidding me? Like
Hyde Park Village is such a gem.
it's awesome.
It
Man.
really is. And you guys are right there, man.
2
What?
blocks.
Two blocks.
Literally. Aunt Swan's our favorite spot. Like that's a shameless plug, I guess. But we love that's like our favorite place in town. It's just it's our neighborhood joint. You know what I mean? Like we go there and it's got
Now that I'm
vibe.
thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe I'm remembering it in a weird way, but doesn't On Swan have similar elements to your home where it's
So,
like iron and rust?
Yeah,
and-
it's kind of got that eclectic feel. It's industrial. But it's also got this very nice comfort to it. Matter of fact, they have, like I said, they have Corten on the outside of their. It's the same material on our front door. It's all like the whole front of their building.
And they've got gas lanterns,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
they pull in some greenery.
They're an
foliage.
awesome group, man. The ownership there is really awesome. But the village itself, like for somebody looking at buying in the neighborhood or buying one of these townhouses, like you're literally a 3-minute walk from being in the village. Like Row just opened up. That's like the hot spot right now. Everybody, you know, all the I don't know what do you want to call it, but meat markets down there.
I've been itching to try Row. How is it?
I haven't been yet, man. I haven't pulled the trigger. I've been so damn busy. I haven't.
5-month-old. I'm trying to get out of the house.
I'm almost embarrassed to say I haven't been there yet. It's so close to our house, but we've just been so busy. But on all accounts, everybody seems to love it.
St. Pete is for sure more progressive and I feel like politically, ideology, and even the architecture, right? St. Pete
Could argue that.
probably would lean more in this direction.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. As a matter of fact,
Have you guys thought about doing some developments over there?
absolutely, man. I'll design anywhere. Matter of fact, we just got a gig up in Michigan. I'm going to be designing something up in Michigan.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm super stoked. But yeah, going back to the homeland. St. Pete, yeah, matter of fact. So the house is a tool, right? I said the house is a tool for us. It was our first solo design build. It's our flagship product. We both live and work from home. My studio's there. And it's absolutely meant to be a tool. We use it for, we do a pop-up showroom at our house if we have like somebody interested in one of the townhomes because all of the finishes are so similar. And the other day, I was working out. I work out in my garage, and I get a phone call. I don't usually ever answer the phone if I'm working out. I like to just get in and out. But I'm like, oh, we got a lot going on. See who this is. And this lady is like, hey, I'm standing outside looking at these townhouses. Here, call the number. I'm like, yeah. And I can hear all the noise. I go, are you still outside? She's like, yeah, I think I see your feet. Like I keep my garage door halfway open. It's like, yeah, let me open up. I'll get you a sales brochure and all this stuff. And she comes in and is just going wild about the house and just, oh my God, I haven't seen anything like this. I have a client in St. Pete with waterfront property. This will be perfect. And she brought that person over 2 days later, and the person loved it. I haven't, nothing signed yet, but
Right.
but to answer your question, yeah, I would love to go work and
Yeah.
do a project in St. Pete, and I think it would be really well received there.
Yeah. Can we talk about the neighborhood? I mean, I know you've had some challenges and people have been a little bit rubbed the wrong way about this, like you said, progressive, definitely ambitious project in an area that, a lot of the homes don't look like what you are building.
It's interesting. So again, like getting back to what I said, I was having sleepless nights building this thing, but it was actually really, really well received by people. Like I said, Miss Brown, who'd been there forever, and some of the other matriarchs. I also put street art on my houses, on all my designs. I've always been infatuated with graffiti. It never was cool enough, rebellious enough to like be a graffiti writer, but I've always been really into it. I photographed it as a hobby. I've always, when I go to cities, like I always find a tag that you see everywhere. And I said, when I can afford to do my own home, I'm going to find a way to incorporate that some way unapologetically. And there's this artist that's from the St. Pete side. He actually was Czech-born, grew up around here, got his start in Detroit as a real artist. And I had learned about him. His name's Basque, and I'm like, that's the guy. I'm not going to try and paint that graffiti. I mean, that would be like super poser, right? And I said, so I got to find somebody who fits my vibe. And I see this guy's work, and I learned about his history. And I called him up, we met for coffee. I brought my model and showed him, told him what I wanted to do. You can see that whole, yeah. I said, I want to put some sort of street art mural on this design and probably all the designs I do going forward. And would you be interested? He's like, dude, when are we digging holes? And since then, he's become one of my best friends, man. He's a really, really cool dude. His work is insane. So about the neighborhood, so we're getting ready to do the work. And he goes, be ready, man. He's like, the first, there's like literally 20 layers of paint on that thing. It's all hand done. He goes, you're going to get phone calls because these first couple layers look like train graffiti. You know what I mean? That's how you get the little color pops in the bottom. Within 2 or 3 hours, my phone's ringing by random neighbors I'd never talked to before. I don't even know how they got my number. Like, somebody's vandalizing your house. Da-da-da. I said,
oh God.
Yeah. I go, no. Well, it gets better. I'm like, no, that's actually, that's supposed to be, it's supposed to look like that. And the tone was like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, trust me, it'll be all good. So we get done. I'm out there one night photographing it, and this older woman, she had been there forever. She was like, I think in her 90s. She lived catty corner from me, and she's walking her dog, and she stops me and she says, listen, I want to tell you something. I said, oh boy, here we go.
Right.
And she goes, I didn't know what the hell you were doing when you started this house and then this thing and this graffiti and all this stuff. And she goes, but now that it's done, I see it, and it's beautiful, and I'm really happy you're here. It was a second person that was in like their 80s or 90s telling me this. And I get the chills right now. I was like, ah, man, that is so cool. I said, you have no idea what that means to me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm emotional,
that's
creative,
amazing,
and it's
dude.
like, yeah, it was awesome.
That's
awesome. So it's to your point about like the neighborhood, some people in the neighborhood being rubbed the wrong way. What I've found is that certainly in Hyde Park, you're going to have your purists that just, if it's not a bungalow, they just don't get it. But what I've done, I'm on my neighborhood association board. I'm the urban planning chair, and any opportunity that we've had, we welcome the neighborhood into our house. There's been like historic home tours and all this stuff. I'm like, well, I'm not part of the historic homes, but maybe I'm a future history or something. I go, so I'll have everybody meet here first. I'm welcome you into my house, show you into our house, and show you around and show you there's nothing to be afraid of here. And the reception's actually been really cool. They're like, again, maybe it's not for them. They can't imagine living there, but they see it now and they appreciate it and they respect it. Yeah. And so it's been good. And when I built, the ARC it was not part of, we weren't in that jurisdiction. And since this past January, that's changed. And so maybe kind of what you're referring to, during the hearings and everything, I went down to city council and spoke twice during those times and said, I have zero problem. I respect historic preservation. I respect the ARC and what the fundamentals are. We want to keep the bad developers out. We want to keep the people that just have bottom line in their pockets in mind. They don't care about good design. They want to build it cheap and sell it for a lot. So I get that. But why are we putting restrictions on the new stuff? Like, why would we do that? Like, if it's designed with integrity and an honest design process and honest materials, like, why are we saying no, you're not welcome? My house right now, as it stands, would not be welcomed in the neighborhood. I could not design and build this house in the neighborhood.
Because those laws have changed.
Yes, exactly. And it's been pretty cool. Like, a couple of the council members actually were behind me. Joe Citro, Bill Carlson, they said, no, we agree with you. Like, there's something here. Like, as a matter of fact, I think it was Citro said, if all we talk about is historic preservation, at what point do we not realize that we're stifling the next generation's ability to create a history of their own? And I mean, that moment for me was like, yes, that's what we're talking about.
That's a great point.
Yeah, and again, I think we talked about it earlier, was as I've looked into the ARC guidelines and what it's going to take for me to design in this neighborhood, because I mean, as if I'm designing now, and I do own other properties that we're going to be developing in the next year, I'm going to have to deal with the ARC, and that's fine. I see it, I understand it, and you can't beat them, join them, right? But the idea for me is going to be, how do I push that envelope and find a happy medium? And when I stood up and spoke, it was, everybody's there with this battle cry for Dobyville, where I live, where I've planted my flag, where I've invested my time in my community. I'm trying to do good things here. And when I got up and spoke, some people took it as that I was like speaking against Dobyville. And I'm like, no, that you couldn't be further from the truth. Mm-hmm. I'm actually trying to help here. I live here. I'm trying to do cool things that bring this neighborhood back. And, none of y'all actually live in this neighborhood. People living on Davis Island or wherever, but they want to make this battle cry. And I'm just like, no. Yeah. First of all, that is not me. So don't paint me as that person. That is not it. And truthfully, this sounds really dramatic, but there wasn't that many of them. And quite frankly, when I've had the conversation, when I've had a moment to sit down and talk with somebody, they understand it. And like I said, some of the older generation, people that are, have been in this neighborhood, people in their 70s, 80s years old, they look at me. I've spoken with some pretty cool people that look at me with a raised eyebrow when I say that I want to do what I want to do or try to do what I want to do. They look at me with a raised eyebrow, but they're like, I'm interested in seeing where this goes. There's only been one. Yeah. There's only been one person. I won't mention that person by name that berated me, told me how dare I put a modern style home in this place and you don't belong here and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, there you are. You're the person that I lost sleep over, but there's only one of you. So
well, between all the awards you guys have won and between the support you've had from your neighbors, especially the older generations, you got to feel confident that you're doing the right thing at this point.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't feel better about what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm humble and I have feelings, you know what I mean? I don't like being the guy that's like pissing people off, but if you're gonna do something and try to do something truly different and truly creative, I forget who it was, maybe it was Jay-Z, said if you're trying to be a creative, you're doing something that's groundbreaking and different. If you don't have sleepless nights and you're doing something wrong, because you're doing something that's never been done or trying to do something that's never been done, there's going to be people that hate it, and that's okay.
Yeah, 50 Cent had a line about that too, right? Go ahead, switch the style up, and if they hate, then let them hate, and watch the money pile up, right? So like,
nice,
right? So I think the biggest piece of your ability to really have a say in the conversation is you being a neighbor. Like the fact that you live there, I believe if you were from XYZ
100.
coming in and trying to do this,
100.
People would try to slit your throat, right?
I am vested, man. I am here trying to do the right thing. And
I think it's that, and then also the quality of design and materials, right? Because this strata barn is going to have the same quality of material as your personal home.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going above and beyond in design.
Absolutely.
You guys are spending money you don't have to spend.
There's two things there I want to say. Well, one, you're right. I consider the townhouse, the strata barn, and my house as sort of like one project. We're on this block. Like, I've been waiting to do my pool and finish my backyard until this is done. And when it's all done, I will photograph it and treat it as such. It's going to be like this one thing that they're two in one. And then, like I said, the other lots that we've been getting our hands on, we're going to continue to try and do what we're doing. And I think that I have a formula that will figure out a way to find that happy medium, man. I have talked to some of the people that talked to old ARC members and whatnot, and we've toured the neighborhood and walked around and said, hey, we've actually, they'll be like, we let this modern style home in or whatever. So there's a way. It's gonna take some work, and I'm okay with that. Like, that's fine.
But look at like Frank Lloyd Wright. Look at the mid-century modern movement. That exploded in the 50s and 60s. People probably didn't agree with that.
Well, it's funny, man. I would never even put myself in that in the same sentence as Frank Lloyd Wright, right?
Well, but isn't that how a movement starts?
Well, somebody said to me, one of the council members said to me, when that woman berated me, I was kind of shook, man. No one's ever like really put me down like that, and really, it was like, shit, that kind of hurt, but whatever. I move on, but for a day or two, I was like, how do I respond? Do I have to respond to this woman? And everybody's like, no, man, you just move on. Like, don't even give her that time of day. And 3 or 4 of my best friends really helped me kind of move past that. And this one guy, one of the council members, I called him and I was talking to him. He goes, oh yeah, I know her. He goes, but let me tell you something, man. He goes, I gotta run it. He goes, I gotta run to this meeting. He goes, but I called you back. I wanted to call you back. He goes, but let me tell you this. He goes, I have a friend that worked for the architect, and they designed the Louvre in Paris, the new, not the Louvre, but the pyramid. He goes, they caught hell for years on that. He goes, and how do you think they feel now? He's like, that's all I got to say. I got to go by. And I was like, whoa, that is what a cool thing for somebody to say to you, right? Like, again, I would never put myself in that category or whatever, but to hear somebody say that to you is like kind of
well,
cool.
that's how
it's rebellious, you know. There's a rebelliousness to it. That's okay.
There is, but I think anything new, you know, that's going to shock a neighborhood with design, you're going to get the people that have pushback. It's
fine.
It's just going to happen.
It's okay.
And I do agree with, hey, if you were south of Swan, that might not be the place for it.
Maybe not. I think maybe.
Although then again, it might look fucking awesome, dude.
Well, but here's the thing. So my house it's extra. It's got a little bit more of an industrial aggression to it, right? It's kind of aggressive. Some of the styles that I've been studying, there's styles that I have been studying actively lately that I think will help me take what we see there, and mix it with what's there. Because the idea is like everything is, I will never design two things the same. I'm always going to be progressing. It's always going to be the next thing, right? And so if and when I was able to design something south of Swan in Hyde Park, you better believe I'm gonna respect the neighborhood, what's there. I'm gonna take things from. If you really look at my ideology, if you read about it on the website when it drops today, it's about urban progressive is about respecting your surroundings, taking things from it that
being inspired.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Taking materiality, heights, ratios, all these things, and honoring it, but on my own level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are modern homes south of Swan. I'm thinking of one in my head right now, and it's fucking badass, dude. In fact, there's one near, what's the park? The park's
Kate Jackson.
Kate Jackson.
That was one of the ones that I walked around with one of the old ARC members. That they pointed that.
It looks really cool.
Yeah, it's nice.
Now, how did that get approved?
Well, because it's traditional modern, and that's traditional modern, and it follows their guidelines of ratios and things like that. And so it's your standard real modern.
So when you were mentioning before about the 7, I think it was specific types, modern is one of those types?
No, it's not mentioned in there at all. So those are ones that are identifiable. They're not saying that you have to do that, but they're saying honor it. Again, if you read it, it's tricky the way that it's written. Because
is that a big piece of pitching your project to the ARC
Architectural Review Commission,
is actually defining the style of design this home will be? I mean, you have to say, hey, this is modern. Hey, this is traditional.
No, not really. And quite frankly, let me back up a little bit. So let's take going south of Swan with my style off the table for a second.
Okay.
Going back to me speaking at council, I started to say, hey, like, all right, let's say that we'll leave south of Swan alone for right now. You guys, let's play nice. I'm in this part of town right now that the city turned its back on for decades. There's a lot of non-contributing structures here. These lots are just crazy weird sizes. Like there's a lot on my street that I want so bad. It's 29 feet wide and 132 feet deep. Like you're gonna tell me that you're gonna be able to design a house under the ARC guidelines that fits in there? No, you're not. The property costs too much money. You can't build the little shotgun shacks. It's just economically does not work. And so that is going to call for a crazy design. And so what I said was, why can't what will it take to explore creating a new design district? Like, what about a design district within the district, an overlay, if you will? I said, why can't we take a place like Dobyville and open our arms up, open up the playbook a little bit and allow for some more modern style? If it's designed with integrity, honest materials, and a real design process, why are we shutting the door on those people? Like, why? And that's where, it goes beyond the council members. I'm working with the city planning directors, historic preservation. I'm talking with these people, and they're like, we like this. This is a good conversation. And so where I really hit them and really got their attention was like, when I was at USF, we used to do, every semester we did what was called a design charrette. It was a weekend charrette. And what that was is they'd put the whole school together, no matter what year you were, freshman, senior, whatever, and they would put you into teams, and you had 3 days to tackle a design challenge. Matter of fact, when I was there, one of the years that we did it, the design challenge was exploring what a river walk would look like in Tampa. This is the Pam Iorio days. And so there was an international design competition going on at that time to study what a cool Riverwalk would look like in Tampa. So we got to be a part of that. And I always thought that was really cool. And so I said, what if we could do a design charrette with USF? If I could get USF behind this to say, hey, this charrette could be about how modern residential architecture can coexist in harmony with historical residential architecture. And they all were like, wow, that's really cool. If you can pull that off, like the city, funny enough, they said, we don't have the resources to do a study like that, but if you could pull something off like that, now we got a conversation to have. I said, challenge accepted. And so I went to the university. I went and spoke with my very favorite professor, one of my two favorite professors, asked him about it. And he said, man, I love that idea. He goes, but we don't do charrettes anymore. It's funny. we realized that I was in his very first design class. And he goes, we don't do charrettes anymore. I go, oh, shit. He's like, do you better? He goes, I'll do a whole semester on it. I think it's a really cool idea.
Wow.
He's like, I do a class in the summer called Tropical House, and it's about passive ventilation, all these different things. He goes, I have always used this site in Sarasota. He goes, but we can pick a site in Hyde Park, and let's do this. He goes, you can help me teach the class. So basically this past summer, I helped teach a class all summer at USF, and I had picked three sites, not one. We picked a site that was like your standard size. It was like 50 by 120, the 29 by 132, and then a really small corner lot that was like 33 by 60 or something like that. And the students there was, I think, 12 students, so there was equal amounts in each one. And we did it. We went for it, and it went really well. The students designed these really cool modern homes. I actually got the neighborhood behind it. We raised a little bit of money to do to hire another student to do some really cool finished renderings. And it went so well that we decided we wanted to, the professor said he wants to do it again next summer, same sites, and have a bigger body of work to present to the city. So we're now about a year away.
Wow.
But it's an ongoing thing that I'm working on right now.
Dude, you're doing amazing things for our community. You really are.
I'm trying. It's kind of quiet. Like I don't talk about that kind of stuff too much on my Instagram or whatever, but I'm working behind the scenes with that one right now because it's kind of like a long play, right? So once it happens, it'll be like, oh shit, he's been working on that for a year or two or whatever. But yeah,
why
we're trying.
would the program do charrettes? Why would they get rid of that? That seems so beneficial.
I don't know. I didn't dig into that one, but yeah, it was always a fun thing.
What you got's a lot better anyway, right?
Yeah. I mean, we got to do a whole summer semester. It was like summer is condensed, but yeah, it was 6 or 8 weeks or whatever it was.
There's a lot of those lots around the city. Tampa Heights has a lot of those lots.
Yeah.
There's alleys that are completely vacated.
Actually, there is a student who ended up asking me to be on his thesis committee, and he's trying to do a study on bringing modern homes into Hyde Park, but working in just the alleyways, working on the back. Can we do modern structures that are not on the front of the street, just on the alleyways or whatever? I said, that's a really cool idea. So I'm working on that right now. Yeah.
I think as Tampa finds more of its identity as the city grows and grows, and a lot of people move here from more diverse backgrounds, from different metropolitan areas, you're going to get people that demand different design work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I would imagine that
Absolutely.
the buyer of this property, it could be a local, right? It could be someone that just loves this style that's from Florida or from Tampa Bay, the area. But I would really imagine it might be someone from a more progressive area that has more of this type of design, like someone that's used to like a Brooklyn, like a really, really cool, edgy real estate area.
I agree.
That's walkable, and they come here and they identify that.
If we had a target audience, I suppose that would be it. You know what I mean? Like people, we actually say like our demographic, our target demographic is a like-minded group of folks. You know what I mean? They like art and music and good design, and they appreciate all the things. When they walk into these units, they're going to get it. They're going to see all those little details.
Yeah, and they want to live the lifestyle that you guys live. They want walkable, they want to be in a great location.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real, these are going to be my neighbors.
You get to pick your neighbors. That's funny.
Yeah, and so we really hope that whoever does buy it is like-minded and good people. I think they will be.
I think it's ambitious, but I think you guys will be successful. Any other projects besides this one on the horizon? It sounds like you have other stuff in the pipeline.
Yeah, so I just got, like I think we said earlier, I just got
the one in Michigan.
Dream Gate, Michigan. Yeah, I'm designing.
But anything locally?
Locally, nothing that I can actually talk about because there's some NDAs or whatever. But yeah, and then we do have another property in Dobbyville that we're working on right now. It's still, we haven't announced it yet because it's sort of just not at that point. But
I feel you.
yeah,
Stay tuned,
trying
everyone.
to try, like I said, trying to keep it. If I can keep it at 3 or 4 projects per year, I'm very happy. We're comfortable. It's the perfect amount of stress, and
Yeah.
we still get to enjoy what we're doing and all that stuff.
Well, you're extremely focused on every aspect of your projects. So for you to take on other ambitions, like you mentioned, would only take away from what you're trying to do
Right.
initially.
Yeah. You can only do so many things if you want to do them well, right? It's funny. You mentioned other areas. I'm really interested in like Riverside Heights right now, Tampa Heights. I could go anywhere. Right now, we're in Hyde Park, and that's the focus. But there are so many cool places coming up in Tampa right now. It's funny. One of the arguments of why are you so focused on Hyde Park? Why there's so many other areas in Tampa that could use your design. Matter of fact, the person that was mad at me for being in Hyde Park actually stopped short when she was leaving and said, "You know what? I think you're a great designer, but you should go design somewhere else." And I was like, okay, I guess
Not
that's
in my backyard.
backhanded slap. She didn't even live here, but it was kind of like that backhanded compliment. But I was like, all right, I guess I'll take that. But the reality is, yeah, they're not wrong. There are tons of other neighborhoods in Tampa and St. Pete and wherever that could use this. And so, but as I got into the conversation with the city, and we're talking about like, hey, maybe we make this design overlay district within this district. He's like, well, there's a lot of other places around Tampa that could take this model. If this works, you could do this in a lot of other places. There are other places that have historic guidelines or whatever that also have pockets in them that have been neglected, and you could use this model to try and build those up as well. I could only be so lucky if that happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and it's one thing at a time. But yeah, that would be awesome.
People have fears, but at the end of the day, I feel like the city has much bigger issues with historical preservation. Look at the Jackson House. Look at what a shame that is.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Look at the building on Tampa Street where the First Watch was. They demolished that. They're going to put up a condo.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a list of gorgeous historical buildings that were demolished and are now parking lots. So,
Yeah, I was just talking with somebody. I was talking about the Michigan project yesterday, and they were showing me there's this old, beautiful theater, very much looks like Tampa Theater, like that kind of ornateness and beauty, and it's turned into a parking garage. Like cars park in the theater, which, hey, if it's better than tearing it down, I guess. And these cars are parked in this wild thing. It's like, okay, well.
Well, there's always an intricate, tricky balancing act between property rights, right? What you can and can't do versus like government coming in and having a conversation about that.
So my thing is like, preserve what's worth preserving. If it's a beautiful building and it can be preserved, let's do that. But I also think that just because something was built from X year to X year or early 1900s doesn't give it carte blanche to be saved. If it's not good architecture, if it's trash,
Just because it's old,
yeah,
right.
just because it's old doesn't make it worthy. You know what I mean? And I'm a believer of that too. And plenty of people would argue that, and that's fine too. But I just think if it's worth preserving, then preserve it.
Do you think the city could do more? I mean, you're kind of on the inside of this. You've had some conversations. Do you think the city should invest more?
I think they try really hard. I mean, as a growing city, you can't save it all. You know what I mean? Like, there's only so much room to grow downtown.
And you certainly can't stop people from moving here. You can't stop the growth.
And I'm not somebody that gets, I don't get mad at growth or if something old is I will be on the team that tries to fight for something. But if they don't win, something else is coming up. As long as what's going to be in its place is done again with integrity. All right, cool. Let's move on to the next thing and hope that they do what they say they're going to do.
That's awesome, man. Well, listen, I applaud you. I think what you're doing is amazing, and this is coming from an old Tampa guy. I mean, I was born here on Davis Islands at Tampa General.
Yeah,
and,
nice.
My great-grandfather came here in the 1800s. We've been here for a long time.
That's cool.
My great-grandmother used to tell me stories about the lamplighters in Ybor City before there was electricity, oil lamps right out here on 7th Avenue. Yeah, so from my perspective, I don't see Tampa as one note. I don't see it as one design. I think this design's very important.
Yeah,
and I appreciate you bringing it to our city.
I'm trying, and even when this all started, when I learned that a lot of the neighborhood wanted to embrace the ARC and expansion and all this, I did a study, and I went around and took photos of a lot of the beautiful historic homes in Hyde Park. And then I took a photo of my house. I had a rendering of the Stratabarn. And then I went online and found photos of modern homes and townhomes in historic neighborhoods. And I made this big collage board. And I brought it in and I said, can you tell me that any of these houses don't look good next to one another? And the answer is no, they all look great. If it's done well, I'll say it again, if it's done with integrity and good materials, it can all live together very well and in beautiful harmony.
That's an important part of your pitch. Have you traveled around different metros that are maybe 20 years beyond Tampa?
I mean, I've done my personal little case studies. My wife and I love to travel. Like travel is not an option. I mean, we believe in immersing ourselves in other cultures and everything from the architecture to the art to the people, the food, the music, you name it. I mentioned how much I love New Orleans earlier. Like that city has it all in spades, man. Food, music, art, culture, people, all top notch. New York, LA, San Francisco, all these places, and globally try to travel to Europe as much as we can and get around. And we soak all that stuff up because if you don't, then it's easy to understand why you'd be really stuck in your own your little yard and think that this is the only way.
That's so true. So a lot of your inspiration came from your travels and being inspired by architects around the world.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for the invite, man. I really
everybody.
appreciate it.
How
Thank
can
you very
people
much.
find you, follow along?
At AADMIXX.com, AADMIXX. And then, like I said, our website is dropping. The new website updated today, www.aadmix.com. Hit me up.
AADMIXX is live, everybody. Check it out.
Appreciate it.
Tobin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Yep.